Welcome, everyone, to Reels Movie Podcast. This is Z, and I'm bringing you a new show on the podcast. It's called Chit Chat, and I am going to be talking with filmmakers, directors, writers, actors, actresses, you name it. I'm going to be talking with people. So, today, for the very first episode, I'm talking with a friend who I've known for 5 years, 6 years, someone I've worked with, very talented director out of Toledo, Ohio, James Bragg. James, thank you for coming on.
Hey, thanks for a lot for having me, man. Appreciate it being here.
James, just to start off, say a little about yourself outside of filmmaking.
Well, outside of filmmaking, I am a father of three. Getting married in a couple of months, and I'm maintaining still a full-time job. Um, Pretty much outside of my artistic side, you would say I'm a pretty normal, average guy. You know, until until you get into the roles that I do, and then you see that I incorporate quite a bit into a life that is already jam packed with other responsibilities, but I still make it happen.
How do you balance the filmmaking and your normal family life and your normal job? How do you balance those? How do you balance all that together?
It's not an easy task, especially when you got three young kids and a full-time job. But it's just all about using your time well. And I just happen to be experienced with that mainly by just having a job and knowing what I gotta do within a time that I'm allowed to have. And then when you incorporate the artistic side, you already have a good balance of how to manage time. So you just incorporate another something else that's gonna take some time and just figure out how to balance all the time with that. As long as I got a good supporting uh crowd, which is my family. So when it comes down to doing the films, of course I let my fiance know what's going on, I let her know how long I'm gonna be doing the project, and then we just balance accordingly, around her, around the kids, and around the job. And she's fully supportive of anything that I do with filmmaking. So she helps to make time available for me to do them tasks.
What brought you into filmmaking? Like, what caught your interest? Was it at a young age?
At a young age, I always looked at the world differently. Like you would have people that would see, you know, just a neighborhood, or as you're driving down the street, you just see what everybody else see. I seen that, but I also would do like the whole. I recall probably around maybe about 10. I recall doing the whole camera finger thing, where actually it's part of my logo now. But I will hold up my fingers like to resemble like putting something within a shot. And I recall doing that a few times whenever I will be well, not when I was driving, but back when I was being drove, as a child. And, I didn't really think nothing of it at that time. Maybe because, I mean, my mom, she grew up watching movies, and I grew up watching a lot of the movies that she, watched. Back in the day, some of the movies that she had me watch, I hated. And then I end up, as the years went on, I go back to the movies and I'm like, I don't even know why I hated these movies because they're phenomenal. But it pretty much just started off of just back then, around 10 years old. I will say that I never said that I want to be a filmmaker or I want to make movies. I'm not gonna lie and say that was me growing up. That didn't actually come about until I would say probably my early 20s, when I started thinking about it and actually starting to put some things into motion. But I would say the very beginning was probably around 10 years old, when I used to be on drives around the city and the things that I would see, I would just look at it like, like when they show like montage scenes of like traffic and stuff like
Mhm.
that, I was actually visualizing that at a very, very young age. I would say it started then, but then I really didn't adapt the whole mindset of actually doing anything like until like my early 20s, and then I didn't actually do anything until my mid 20s.
So it was a pretty big gap there in between. Were you learning, or like you're self-taught, correct?
I am self-taught for the most part. I did go to school at a later age, but I was practicing and self-teaching probably about 5 years or so prior to going to college for it.
Now, is that when you're saying self-taught, is that like a lot of YouTube videos, books, things of that nature?
Honestly, YouTube was still fairly fresh back when I started doing everything. I mean, the way YouTube is now, you can find out anything, but back when I started, I don't think there was really much as far as tutorials on YouTube, but I didn't go through YouTube at all for anything. I just went off of the movies that I've watched and then what I had at my disposal and just trying to recreate, like not necessarily verbatim, like scene by scene, but like, certain shots I will see in movies and I'm like, I think I can do that type of shot with what I had at my disposal at the time. And I just started practicing and for the most part just learning. A lot of what I was actually learning was coming from behind the scenes on DVDs that I had. Um, that was pretty much my YouTube right there. I always told myself, like, whenever I go get a movie, the first thing I look at on the package, the DVD package, is what is the special features. And now I'm not saying that I disregarded any movies that I wanted because it didn't have special features on how it was made, but that was one of the things that I was looking for, especially on movies that I really, really enjoyed. Like, is there a behind the scenes on how certain shots was done or how scenes were done, or talking to the director? And early on, that was my YouTube. That was, seeing the behind the scenes of movies that I still have to this day. You know, which I noticed as of late, certain movies, they don't have the same amount of content from special features when it comes down to behind the scenes stuff, and it's kind of disappointing.
That's I've never heard anyone actually like dive straight into the special features to learn that way. That's actually very fascinating. Was there
It,
anyone, any director, any film that actually brought your love to filmmaking?
well, starting off, I mean, I'm a big fan of Spike Lee. I would say that he was one of the main directors that kind of got me into film. Another one is John Singleton. As far as like individual movies, I really can't say that there was one in particular movie that got me into wanting to, make movies myself. But as far as director, Spike Lee was definitely what was the main person that, that captivated me to where I said like I want to learn how to make films. As far as like that breakout movie that kind of helped it out. I really don't have a breakout movie. It wasn't just that one, snap your fingers and then bam, you see something. This is what I want to do. It was really nothing never like that. As I said, I grew up watching movies, with my moms, and I think when I finally got into the mindset of saying that I want to do this myself, I just started to backlog on the movies that was being shown to me in the 80s, and the early 90s, and seeing the movies at present day, back when I decided that's what I want to do, I just combine all of them together as far as with my mentality of this is what I want to do. Because I mean, some movies that's like back in the 80s, still have very much has some relevance for today. I mean, should I show some of the movies that I grew up with to my kids, you know, just because like they're like informational movies about, about childhood, like say for instance the Goonies. You know, I grew up watching the Goonies. I had my kids watch the Goonies and they fucking loved it, you know.
Yeah.
So and that movie came out what like mid 80s, maybe 85, 86, you
Yeah, I
know.
think it was 80. I think it was around 84.
All right, even so 84, and the first time I showed that movie to my children was like 3 years ago. So, and it still held that relevance of, captivating children. It was still a movie that was very enjoyable from a kid standpoint, even from a grown up standpoint. My fiance, she never saw the Goonies, and actually it was in '85 because she was
Yeah,
born in '85,
you're
and
right.
that's when the movie came out, and I was giving her shit about how you ain't never seen the Goonies. So I even let her watch it, and she even, enjoyed the movie. And I'm like, so yeah. So when it comes down to the whole mindset of what started it, Spike Lee gave me the information to start doing it, but honestly, just years upon years of watching some classic movies and some good movies. Um, Pretty much I got it from my mom's. She didn't know what she was teaching me, and I don't even think that she was just teaching me. She just liked good movies that had good stories,
Right.
and she just happened to, you know, have me watching with her. And some of the movies that I watched was grown up movies to where like Scarface. I hated Scarface when it first came out, you know, because I seen it, well, when it first came out, it was really early. I really can't remember the year, but when it was something that was shown to me, with my mom's, had to cover my eyes on certain scenes, but the whole 2.5 hours, I sat through that and watched the movie, and I couldn't stand it, and that's one of my all-time classics. It's an all-time classic for a gangster movie.
Hmm.
Um, but it's one of my all-time classics as far as the acting. I mean, Al Pacino made a lot of great movies. I'm not saying that Scarface is number one. Early on, it was until I started to dig more into his repertoire of films, and he made some pretty outstanding acting debuts and other. Well, I ain't gonna say debuts, but he made some other great acting appearances in other movies. I think Sin of a Woman is probably one of my best films that he's ever made. I give a lot of credit to my moms. I think that she was teaching me without knowing that she was teaching me because of all the shit I had to watch that I couldn't stand. And as the years went on, I'm like, man, this shit was actually pretty good. I don't even know why I couldn't stand watching it, but it could have been because of the fact I was a kid. I'm trying to go outside and play, or she wasn't keeping me in the house to keep me from playing. I think it was the times when I watched movies with her because it was either raining outside or I was bored and I had nothing else to do. So I'm like, well, I guess I'll just come and chill with my mom and watch whatever the hell she's watching.
That you appreciated more at an older age.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. I appreciate it a lot. Like I said, I mean, it molded me into what I am today and the things that I've done since the mid 2000s. Yeah, definitely. I appreciate it a lot. It was a hidden teaching that neither of us knew was happening.
Before we start talking about your own work, do you see any of our directors like a Spike Lee or a John Singleton in you when you're directing or making the films?
The one thing that I really do try to not do is copy anybody's work, and nowadays it's even harder to not copy somebody's work because there's so much out there. Like it's really hard to come with something absolutely new and fresh and nobody's seen it before. You
Right.
know, it's really hard to do that. So I would say, as far as with my movies, is there any inspiration from Spike Lee? Of course there is. He has this one thing that he does in damn near every movie that he's ever made, where he'll have somebody on like a dolly, and it'd be like a certain scene within these movies where they're supposed to be walking, but it's like they're floating, you know. And if you can even check it out yourself, like damn near every Spike Lee movie has. He called it something. I forget what it's called, but it's something to where it's like a it's like a change in the story, or there's a plot twist, or there's something that's going on when that scene happens, and it's really like a 5 second scene of somebody as they're walking, they're literally floating because they're on some type of dolly or whatnot. Um,
Very
you
similar to like in the movie Inside Man with Denzel. After
Yeah, yeah, that
Oscar.
same, yeah,
Yeah,
yep, that scene that you're thinking about, he incorporates that in every single one of his movies somehow, some way, and
it's different seeing that
it
like
is,
seeing that view.
it is, and as far as what I do in my films, I would just have like a certain, I mean, I can't, I'm not saying that I can't do that type of scene. I just don't want to. That's his shit. That's what he created. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to mimic it, but I do have certain things. Mainly it's probably music based, or maybe some slow motion, or maybe like a certain, it's kind of hard to describe what I have that kind of sticks out as being the plot twist.
Hmm.
Um, but I do incorporate something visually or something within the music that's playing that is showing the plot twist that is very similar to something that Spike Lee does. And I pretty much do that in every project that I do, whether it be, the feature film or a short film, or even um a music video or whatnot. I incorporate that that self vision moment, I guess you could say. Like Spike Lee incorporates that Spike Lee moment in every film. Um, he doesn't call it that, but that's what I call it because he literally has it in every film. And if you've seen enough of his films, you will actually be able to point out, just like he pointed out on The Inside Man, something just like that he does in every single one of his movies.
Because it stands out. That's
It's
one of the things he does a lot. That he makes moments stand out, and you remember those moments. Like I'm never gonna get that picture out of my mind because Inside Man's a really good movie, it really is.
hmm
And
hmm
that just that part is the lone part of the movie that stands with me because it's
hmm
so original, it's so Spike Lee, and it was so beautifully done, especially in that time, that moment in the movie in itself. It was so
hmm
perfectly done. Like that's why Spike Lee does so many instances. It's like perfectly done. He's like every movie he does. It's not the greatest ever, but
right.
he makes them good because he's so talented. So I agree with you on your part that Spike Lee's really good inspiration. He does so many instances that makes you remember that movie.
And as far as with with me and probably every other filmmaker, I think we all want to have that standout moment that says like throughout the entire movie, there's going to be this one scene or this one transition in music, that's going to be like, this is my moment right here. This is my vision. I guess it's hard to explain. Man, I mean, I just feel like every filmmaker has that moment in whatever that they do, where they're going to incorporate something like this is going to be in either every movie or maybe something that they really love. Like this is that scene or that moment that I want to out. Now,
Right.
is it going to come out to the audience that way? Like this is what you're trying to do. I mean, it really all depends. But I mean, honestly, it really shouldn't matter if you're trying to please the audience. About I want you to make sure that you understand what this means. I think it's just all within the filmmaker. Like when we do what we do, it's about what we want to say. This is what this means, where I shot it this way for this purpose. I
Mhm.
transitioned the music for this purpose. And sometimes people will actually will catch on to that after watching the film two, three, four, or 5 times. There's been plenty of movies that I've seen that I didn't catch on to certain shit until after watching it like 4 times. And I'm not talking about 4 times back to back. I'm talking about watching it one time. I thought it was good. A few months later, watch it again. And then, if I watched one movie with like 4 times within a year, that fourth time, be like, I did not know this shit that I just saw, and I seen this movie 3 times prior, and then it's like, like a brain explosion. Like, damn, that's what they was trying to, that's what they was trying to say, or that's what they were trying to do. And then sometimes when you look at behind the scenes special features, sometimes the directors want to point that out, and it's just amazing how film can just open up your mind to a lot of things.
So you want to add your own signature to each movie.
Yeah, I think that I do. The signature isn't always the same. I think it's just showing like pieces of me. Like I would have to say like when I do my movies, I'm music based, meaning
Mhm.
that I will have certain things playing on certain scenes because of a mood that I felt. I don't know how much time we have on this, but I want to give you an example. I mean,
Go
are we
ahead.
good on time?
Yeah, go ahead.
Some years ago, I want to say probably 2013, 2014. I was working. A lot of my movies I get based off of ideas that I have while I'm working. Um, and I was working, and I was thinking of a movie that was dealing with deception and going outside of your relationship. And there was a song that I had in my mind that I loved. I still love it to this day. Um, it was by Janet Jackson, and the song was called "The Body That Loves You." And I used to sleep to that shit. When I was younger. That shit was a good song. It was smooth. It was good. It was it talked about relationships, but it talked about it in a good way. So my fucked up mind was like, what if I can take a song that is based around someone being loved by somebody else or how much they love somebody. And ultimately the song is about, someone just being in the caressing arms of another, potentially probably about to have sex or whatnot, And for some reason it just clicked in my head, like, what if I had that song play during a murder scene? It kind of, I just kept, I kept the thought going. Someone's getting murdered, while this song is being played, and it's almost like a Quentin Tarantino type style. I mean, you've seen plenty of his movies. He has like, I don't want to say oddball music playing at certain times, but it's like it's something different. So
Yeah.
I would have to say that he inspires me quite a bit too. I would say especially around the music department when I transition music into certain scenes, I would say I definitely has have been inspired by Quentin on that aspect. Now, even though I know that YouTube and they don't you have to go through a lot of red tape or whatnot to get like licensed music on your stuff, and actually that video was blocked for some time, so I had to re-upload it. Now I got two identical versions of the short film on my page because for probably about 5 or 6 months it was being blocked, and I don't know, I forgot what I did as far as like trying to fight it, but eventually, it was able to play within its entirety along with the song being played. So I came up with this movie called Intuition, and it was based around a female that was in love, well, engaged to her boyfriend slash soon to be fiance. Her mind is, got all fucked up thinking that something was happening between her fiance and her best friend. And, towards the end of the movie, she ends up, murdering this guy. She finds out at the last minute that ultimately her best friend was actually trying to hook him up with the engagement ring, that she found towards the end of the film. I'm pretty much giving the entire film away, but it's like the one scene that stands out, on that short film was probably what about a 13-minute short film or so was the love scene, because the love scene started off as a love scene and then transitioned into a murder scene, and I had everything go according to the song. and it was just weird. But I had that vision in my head, and that's what I wanted to do, and I thought it came out pretty fucking sweet. Sometimes whenever I watch that short, I would just go straight to that scene only because I like how I incorporated the music to, you know, a love slash murder scene. And it was very well received by, the people that saw it at that time as well. You know, um, I forgot where I was going with this, but I think it was just all about and when I say that I'm music based with my films, I want to say that was the beginning of me starting to do that on films moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll in the description you can obviously see a link to James's channel for you can see all of his shorts, trailers, all his work as well. What was your very first directing experience? Was it a music video over a short?
I would say was a music video. Um, I and this was back in 2000 and 2006. 2006, I actually moved out to New York and stay with a friend of mine at that time. And because I'm heavily into music myself, like I make my own music as well, and I also try to incorporate my music as well in a lot of what I do. I started making music videos with my a close friend of mine when I was first starting out. I'm just telling these guys out in New York, like, this is what I want you guys. Well, this is what I want you guys to do. And according to what the music is talking about, we just go to implement that here, 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 and there. And even at that early age, I knew what I wanted to see, and I wasn't saying that the final product was 100% what I wanted. If anything, it's probably about 40%. Because starting off early, you're doing a lot of practicing. I was practicing with my directing with my earlier music videos that I did with some close friends at the time. These were like projects that I was doing for free. Just some friends like, hey, I know how to make some music videos. Let's go ahead and try and wrap some shit up, get some things going. And they were all for it because I mean, who the fuck don't want to be in front of the camera? You know, if you're artistic, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So they were all for it, like, oh, we don't gotta pay. Like, nah, motherfucker, you don't gotta pay, but you gotta do what I'm asking you to do though. That I would say that was my first directing experience was when I started doing music videos out in New York. My first major one, 2012, well actually in 2011, I got brought to a female Latino singer. Her name is Yvonne Ramos, and her group is Yvonne y Fuego. She was doing some solo work with a producer. His name is John Butch Phillips here in Toledo. So she was doing a solo record, me and him. He's actually very close in the family. He's my stepdad. He was like, I want to do a music video for Yvonne for this song. He knew I was just starting off, but he didn't seen some previous work, and he seen what it could be. It wasn't completely there when I did that video, but it was very close, and the video came out very top notch. But he got a hold of me like, hey, I got this artist. I did this record for her, and we're thinking about shooting a music video for it. We all had a meeting. My first time meeting Yvonne, very sweet lady. Real cool. And honestly, me and her vibed a lot um, with the collaboration of that video. The ideas that she had meshed with the ideas that I had, and it went really well. So when we went to film that video, it was actually one of the longest video shoots I've ever done. The song itself is like 3.5 minutes long, but we filmed for probably about 12 hours. We shot for 12 hours. It was a bar that let us use their establishment. I don't think that it's still there, but they're across the street from this place called the Tin Can down here in Toledo. So if anybody's familiar with the Tin Can, across the street there was a bar that used to be there. It might be something else now, but it's not what it was when we shot the video. But they lent us their establishment, and they put a sign out in the door saying that we're shooting the music video. Everybody's more than welcome to come, because they still had people coming in, rather have a drink or have lunch, because they also served food. So they just wanted to let them be aware that we were filming. I think I had roughly probably about 30 30 individuals that I had to direct in that music video. And so I would say that was like my first major directing debut, because I had to direct, 30 people on, what to do or how to act or how to look, you know. And I mean, I had help, some, Yvonne, she helped out, because, it was like what she wanted too. So, um, but everything went so smooth with that. We had a great time, a great time, and the video was phenomenal. It came out great, and it actually opened up the floodgates for me when other people seen that and was asking about music videos and stuff like that. Around that time, I was, even though it was my first major director moment, um, I also, that was also like a video that I'm like, I felt like I was in that position to where like I could start charging now,
Yeah.
for my work, you know. So that was a paid gig, but it was still like my debut of actually directing. I don't know if that's something that she knew, um, but the relationship that spawned after that, we still good to this day. And I done I think 3 or 4 other music videos for her since then. I filmed her wedding since then. That just shows how magical that work was and how we connected so good. And one thing I want to say when it comes down to actually like, connecting with the person that's paying you or that you're working with, um, one thing I do notice that you really got to have a connection, or be that guy or that girl that is just like down to earth and not thinking higher or lower about too much of anything. Because what I learned is that whatever work that you do for somebody, depending on how they like it, not only how they like it, but how they like you.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's they're going a lot of my business came from word of mouth, you know and the word of mouth just comes from this me just being that solid, down to earth type of person. I'm able to connect with damn near any personality. So I would say for filmmakers out there, or people that's doing music videos or commercials or whatnot, just make sure that you're keeping yourself in check and not thinking that you are bigger than the person that is coming to you asking you to do something for them. Because I mean, there's a lot of people that can do great work, a lot of people, but their personality is fucked, and because of that, you limit yourself on who you gonna fuck with. You know, so that's my that's my little bit of knowledge right there for anybody that's in the game. Like, don't think that because you do great work that you're great. A lot of people can do great work, but if motherfuckers ain't out there spreading your name around, it could be because of your personality, not your work, but your personality. So that's just something that some people should probably think about.
That's a very good teaching moment right there with what you said. That's really good advice.
I mean, it's real, and I experience it. So,
Yeah.
mhm.
Especially coming from a small town like Toledo. It's like the fourth biggest town in Ohio, but small independent community. We'll say that.
Right. Hmm.
You have to rely on word of mouth. I know I
Yep.
lived there. I experienced it. You need word of mouth. So that's
Mhm.
very telling for what you're
Yeah,
saying. And it's very true as well.
it's real shit, for
And I'm
real.
sure that's possible. I'm sure that's advice even in Hollywood as
Oh
well.
yeah, oh yeah. It
So
does. It doesn't matter how much you making. Like there's directors that will refuse to work with some of the top billed actors. But yeah, man, it goes. in all aspects, from indie to major Hollywood, like your your personality is really like, you gotta have that intact. I mean, you got people that don't give two shits about it, and then you got directors who don't give two shits about it neither. Like you got people that would deal with you because what you bring to the table is good, and they don't give a fuck about how fucked up you are, and that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
If that's how you do business and that's who you work with, that's fine. It could be one time in my life where you know I might have to be on that same path. I'm not saying that I will, because for the most part, if I don't like you, it's very hard for me to work with you. You
Yeah.
know, so it'll be really hard for me to say that in the future I could be that same type of director that I got this major actor or actress working on my shit, but I can't stand them. That's something that's going to be really hard for me to swallow if I'm ever in that situation. And if I am in that situation, it got to be a lot of shit going on for me to say that I'm swallowing a lot of shit to deal with this person.
You've done more shorts than features, correct?
hmm
What's harder?
I would say probably a short, only because you got to compact, everything to make sure that it's a beginning, middle, and an end within a certain amount of time. So I would say definitely a short is harder to do. You just got, like I said, I look at it like I got to have a beginning, middle, and end, in this amount of time. I mean, even though I say it's harder to do, I mean, I'm able to do it, pretty fluid. Like I mean, it's pretty easy to do, but like say anybody that's starting out, or what have you, you still gotta look at it as like a story, and the
Mm-hmm.
story doesn't just come off of the beginning. You know, like when you see whatever that you are watching, you're expecting a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now, granted, there is like movies out here now, and even short films where they are anticipating that deer in the headlights look like what the fuck, but they're still given a beginning, a middle, and an end, but the ending is not what the viewer wants to see. So you're still getting that what the fuck, but the viewer is still satisfied with the fact that they got a beginning in the middle and the end, but they're not satisfied because like the ending was not what they were expecting. I think that, with short films, like there are some short films that I've done to where like, I can actually combine, like 'cause I made one short film called Massacre, and it's actually like a three-part series per se, well, a two-part. The third one, I am actually working on, but you're telling half the story, but the audience is still getting the full aspect of the story. So if it ever transitions into like a full movie, it's almost like a novel. When people take, well, I really don't want to get into that because you got some people that can't stand movies that's made off of books,
Yeah.
because they feel like the movie cuts so much shit out, you know. But I mean, I kind of do want to put it in that context because, like, if I was to decide to make a full feature off of one of my short films, I can elaborate more into the story and get people more involved in the characters. And that's another thing. With short films, you really got to choose wisely how you're gonna showcase your characters because you got a limited amount of time for somebody to love or hate a character in the short film. And that's what makes it hard because you want to make sure that the viewer is going to like or dislike, characters that need to be liked or disliked. That's why I feel like short films is harder to do because you got to capture all of them moments in a short amount of time and hoping that the viewer will still receive all that and enjoy the product and have feelings for the characters. And that's why I think short films is harder to do.
I worked with you as you were. I worked with you as a director. I worked with you as an actor. What do you think is more challenging for you, being a director or being an actor?
Being a director, I would say I would say that's more challenging just due to the fact that with the director, you have the vision, and you're hoping that who you're telling the vision to is gonna match what you're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And depending on the amount of people that you are directing, it could be very challenging. From an actor standpoint, it's easier because I mean you're reading the script. The director gives you, pretty much the idea of how this person is or what they're looking for, and then you just try your best to incorporate that vision from the director into the character that you're reading.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm not, even though I said that directing is harder, acting is hard too, because you're trying to, pull off a performance, and depending on you as an individual, sometimes you gotta go outside the box of what you're comfortable with. So that could be really hard too. Going outside of your element to portray a character is a very hard thing to do. But I would still feel that it's harder for someone to be a director, because an actor only got to worry about what they're reading and how they're going to portray it. A director got to worry about what everybody's reading and how they're going to portray it, and
Mm-hmm.
if it's going to match what they're seeing. So that's why I say being a director is hard. It's harder to do.
Well, I know when you did act for me, when I directed New Blood Awakening, we filmed, what was it, like 27 hours?
Yeah,
It was a
yeah,
long,
that.
it was a long, and that the weather rained for like 3 straight days. We flooded. Your basement flooded during that whole time.
Yes,
And
it.
it was a massive challenge, especially for as an actor, because you're doing something, obviously, I want to say outside your comfort zone.
No, no, that no. I mean, what the role that I had to play on New Blood Awakening wasn't outside of my comfort zone at all. Um, but as far as it being hard, the hard part with acting, and in particular with New Blood Awakening with the 27-hour shoot, is the fact that you still got to be in that same element. When it's one back when we say action, you know. So because when we say action, them scenes aren't showing the 27 hours,
It's not.
them scenes are, showing, at max 5 minutes,
If even.
if even. Yeah, when it comes down to, the art being hard on the actor, it's hard when, time and a lengthy amount of time goes by, but you still have to showcase that exact same emotion for a scene that is 2 to 5 minutes long, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
or a couple of scenes, like, if you're showing a certain reaction for day one of a movie, and then the day two of that same movie, you still got to show that same scene, or whatnot. You still got to carry on that exact same emotion, or that exact same expression. And it takes patience from an actor standpoint, and it takes remembering what the fuck you're doing,
Yeah.
how, what you're doing, not just your wardrobe, but your facial expression, your vocal tone, you know, all that comes into play when it comes down to we're shooting for hours, but when the final product comes down, it's only, a couple of scenes. Then that's what makes it hard for an actor. But those that really want to be in the game though, and know how it is, they channel that, they channel that energy, and then they make sure that their performance is the same throughout if it needs to be the same.
Well said. And it was challenging because I think we all felt that fatigue at that time. Let's talk nerdy to me.
Okay.
How did that come about for you?
I want to say, was it 2015? Yeah, 2015. Um, you actually emailed me saying that you had a script, and you and another individual by the name of Katie Sampson was looking for a director, you know, and he told me what the script was about, and I said, well, ultimately, yeah, let me take a read, let me check it out, see if there's something that I can do. So, you know, he sent me the email. I read the script. The script was written by a man by the name of Shadon Manigault. I do believe he's from North Carolina.
Yeah, I think so.
Haven't met the man, and haven't really talked to him vocally, but we text back and forth, and from what I can tell from him, he's a pretty cool guy. The script was it was funny. It was that type of comedy that related to me, and the things that and the TV shows and the movies that I watched, or that I still watch now. It had a lot of in my opinion, it had like a lot of Seinfeld moments in there. It had a lot of what's the damn movie with uh shit. Um it had fucking damn it, I drew a fucking blank. It
Well,
was it was a high school movie. One of the main, well, he wasn't the main actor, but he was like an older guy that was like selling weed to the kids.
are you talking
Um
about Dazed and Confused?
Dazed and Confused. There we go. Why couldn't I think of that shit? Because I was dazed and confused. But But yes, like it had, some elements of Dazed and Confused, had some elements of Seinfeld, had some elements of some of the older movies that I was watching with my moms, like The Breakfast Club and
Mm-hmm.
fucking like Sweet 16. It had all them elements in there. So as I'm reading this shit, I'm, looking I'm doing flashbacks of all these movies. Like I said, my mom was teaching me without knowing she was fucking teaching me, you know, by these movies that either I couldn't stand or I was watching with her that I thought was okay and ended up being phenomenal movies as I watched them years later. I thought in my mind that the script for Nerdy had elements of all that shit, and all that shit I watched and laughed to, or I watched and thought was good, and I was like, you know what? I think I want to be a part of this. And my lady, I had her read it, and she thought it was good as well. And I told her like, well, some people is asking me to direct this movie, and if I decide that that I'm gonna do it, that it's gonna take some time, away from the household, and we came into agreement with it, and she was like, I want you to do it, and I want to do it. I got back with you, and I'm like, I like the script, I want to be a part of it. Pretty much everything took off from there.
And you really changed the script from the final product to the script. I think we both agreed that it felt very outdated, and you made it more modernized for it, and actually, I think it made the movie better.
I mean, yes. Like I said, it shows signs of Sweet 16, The Breakfast Club, Dazed and Confused. And granted, all the movies are old, Um, and that's how I looked at it. I think there were some other people that that told me that it reminded them. When I talk about the final movie, we're talking about like when we was doing the script reading and all that. I think it's some movie that came out in the '90s with the chick from 90210, and then a couple of other chicks. It was a female movie. I think even Shadon wanted the females to be a certain ethnicity, and we actually didn't even go that route.
No, we didn't.
But it was in resemblance to a movie that came out in the '90s, and I can't remember for the life of me what that movie was. But it was something about three chicks that was in high school.
Was it Clueless?
I think it was Clueless. I think it was Clueless. I think it had he kind of wanted that vibe, but but yeah, reading the script, it was showing that it was dated, but that we made some tweaks, and I think the tweaks that we did made it more modernized, and it's kind of. Will I say that did we make it better? I would say that we made it more relevant. You
Cool.
know,
That's a very good way to say it. Very good way to say it.
we made it more relevant to the viewers that was gonna be watching it. In the millennium. I mean, you gotta think a lot of motherfuckers haven't seen you know, The Breakfast Club, and that was the shit that I had to watch year after year in fucking high school. That was like, our PSA, and fucking junior high, we gotta watch The Breakfast Club, you know. So nowadays, I don't even know if they even have that shit in high schools where they watch like a movie about high school kids, you know. But yeah, it was so with us making it more modernized, like it made more sense to the viewers of this time period. Whereas if you would have stayed, strictly according to the script, I think it would have lost a lot of people. And it probably wouldn't have been as well received. And that's not shitting on the script at all. At least 80% of the script was still intact for the movie. Let's
Yes.
let's just be clear about that. So it wasn't like it was like a whole fucking rewrite or no shit like that. You know, like the majority of the script was still intact for the feature for the film.
A lot of stuff that we came up with, like humor points, that came up on the fly.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of it was on the fly. I like that because it's more of a organic thing. You know, when you come up with shit on the fly, or one of the actors decide to do something on one of the takes that isn't part of the script, and you look back like, what, we're going to keep that part right there.
Mm-hmm.
I like what you did right there because that's also them getting into their characters and saying that, even though this isn't said in the script of what they do, this is how I feel they might act or they might say. I'm gonna incorporate this. And for the most part, like some of the actors, they told me they was gonna do something, but they didn't tell me what they was gonna do. And I just said, okay. I said, okay, this is how you feel this character is going to be. I'll let you do it. I mean, ultimately, if I don't like them, well, I'm not going to keep it, But what was done, what was great, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, we keeping that, we keeping that. I like that. I like how you took that character.
Right. And one of the beauty parts of Talk Nerdy is that it involves around so many different classes of people. It focuses on teenage pregnancy, which that covers pretty much primarily throughout. So how did you incorporate all those into the movie? I know we stayed true to the script itself, but how did you make those real as possible?
Um, I would honestly say that the actors made it as real as possible. With their performance. When it came down, like for one, the three girls, um, um, Spring, Melissa, and Vanessa, for one, they already had a relationship prior to the movie, and honestly, their connection on how they are as far as friendship made it a lot easier, for them to incorporate their emotions, on screen
Hmm.
because you know they were just able to they clicked well off screen and they already had a friendship. So when it came down to all of them playing close friends in the movie, they pretty much incorporated a lot of personalities. They just all played it so phenomenal. I mean, Only thing that I can say that I did was edited their performances to where
Yeah.
everything is in sync. You know, they truly brought the characters to life. You know, they incorporated their own ideas on how they felt these characters would think, act, and look. You know, so they all nailed it out the park. And the funny thing about this whole thing about the actors in general was that they was already picked out. I came to the first reading. You know, I kind of lucked out by knowing that there was already auditions that was done and characters was already in play. Me seeing them for the very first time, reading it out, you know, doing the first read, you know, I was getting ideas of, you know, how they're going to actually do it once we say action, and I was I was feeling pretty good, you know, on what I saw during the script read. From the actual filming days, I was just absolutely blown away with the performances. And honestly, I'm not gonna take credit for something I didn't do. You know, I would say that I told them I want you to do this or do that, you know, but it was very minimal directing on how I want you to portray a character. I just added my 2 cents on certain parts. So there was definitely all the actors that, you know, that was doing their part, you know, and they all did a great job.
Yeah, I was there, I think, for 99% of filming. And I can
Hmm.
agree. You really were very laid back and you kind of let them do their work and then you kind of critique the after the first go around.
Hmm.
And you're right, like you didn't have a say in I think you were out of town when we had our casting, but we had a lot of people show up and you know, I think we did come up with a really good cast at the time and we had a lot of new people that we never worked with before and a lot of people we've worked with. And so you pretty much knew what about 80, 75, 80% of the cast beforehand?
I say I knew and worked with probably about 60% of the cast.
It was about
Uh,
six. Okay.
I'll say about 60% of working them on previous projects, you know, and stuff like that. Um, Everybody that came from out of town, you know, my first time meeting them was honestly sometimes some of them. My first time meeting them was the day that they actually we had to shoot,
It's
you
true.
know,
True.
and but even then, I did not feel uncomfortable at all. I didn't feel like, oh man, I don't even know how they're gonna present this character. I don't know if they're good at acting. I mean, I didn't have none of that. I didn't have any fear about the people that I met the day of. My only fear was honestly getting people to meet up when we had to shoot,
Yeah,
and
that was
and
challenging.
was hoping that there was no, you know, outside interference that will come up to where we have to reshoot or figure out something else. Um, it only happened one time when we didn't have to reshoot. We just had to do a certain scene more than once, and we had to incorporate the same actors, and they didn't even see each other for that scene that we had to do. So
Which that was the pregnancy reveal on Spring's part, correct?
yes, that was between Spring Lions and Jessica David.
Yeah.
That was it was that scene where something happened and it was someone that came from out of town that couldn't make it at that time. So we shot it two separate weekends or like 2 weeks in between. So and that's another thing. With something like that, when you're filming, like them are them behind the scene moments where you know that a scene is not done the exact same day, but if you can show it as being done the exact same day, that makes you pretty fucking good. And the way that I had to shoot that scene, it was done on two separate days, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it was literally a scene that lasted a couple of minutes. The way that was edited, it was dope. It was
Yeah,
pretty fucking good.
you could not tell that they were not in the same room.
It was pretty fucking good, That I would give myself kudos as an editor
Yeah.
on that part, and then also as a director, directing both actresses on what they need to be doing and who they need to be looking at, even though they wasn't even in the same room. Yeah, that's skill. That and you don't do that right off the bat. You don't do that first coming in knowing what the fuck is going on. That was practice years upon years of, having situations come up, to where like, okay, I know how to do this and I know how to make it work. And it's only from knowledge of past.
One last question before we wrap this up. Um, any challenges on set that you had that either you had differently that was done differently or anything like that, or any fun stories, anything like that from Talk Nerdy?
Talk nerdy. There's quite a few fun stories. As far as the only challenges that I can honestly, you know what, there was one. All right, there's a couple of things. So there's a scene where Rory's character and his best friend was going to a theater to watch a movie, and I had to I put an ad up saying that we're looking for some extras to fill up this movie theater. Everybody's interested. Just come down to this theater. I rented out this movie theater for I think it was like 4 hours. Um, and was honestly I was expecting at least 50 to 70 people to show because I was people was telling me that they had interest in being a part, and they were just going to be extras. When we get down to it, it was only the two actors and then one extra. And the one extra, his name was Mark Klein. We worked together in the past as well as you and him, and I almost thought I was just going to be like, how the hell are we going to pull this shit off? You know, I was expecting, somewhat of a packed, theater of, randomized people, trying to watch, this movie. But then I thought about it. I'm like, okay, these guys are, not very popular in school, and they get into like nerdy shit, and the movie that they're going to go see is in their mind the best fucking flick ever, but it's the mind of someone who is not that popular. So if you think about it, the movie itself probably isn't that popular. Motherfuckers ain't really gonna go see it. So when I looked at it from that standpoint, it was actually perfect that the fucking theater was empty, you know, because it was a movie that very few wanted to see. The way we implemented that and brought that out, I think it fit the characters perfectly on what was well, on how everything laid out. And then the one character, the one extra, Mark Klein, he added in that extra funny element that wasn't even in the script. That's one of them things, like you said earlier. Doing things on the fly. His character was added on the fly as far as with dialogue. Like we gave him dialogue for the fact that nobody was in that theater. You know, and I would say that was challenging, but at the same time, though, that was that quick. How can we make this right and do it on the fly? And I thought that shit was pretty fucking cool. With that being said, had it running it out for X amount of hours, it had to happen now because I'm not gonna pay to have this shit rented out again. We just gonna go off the, we gonna go off the top and just like freestyle it. I mean, that was challenging. The other challenging one was our very first day of shooting. We had a snowstorm in the middle of April or the beginning of April. I think we started filming at the beginning of April,
Yeah.
and we had a snowstorm, and one of the main actresses, Melissa Zoss, she got into a car accident on the way to the set where we were filming the very first scene, and I'm thinking like, fuck, man, damn, this is bad, but she got a hold of me, and she was like, I got into a car accident. She had some extras that was coming with her, that was in the car with her, that also got into the accident, and she was like, we just gonna go to the ER, make sure we good, but they check us out, we're gonna still be there. I'm like, what the fuck, you know? And cause I'm like, you know what? I'm thinking like, hey, how is your health? Are you okay? We'll figure out how to do it without you. I just want to make sure that you're good. And she was like, no, I'm fine. Honestly, my mom is the one that wants me to go to the ER. So that's the only reason why I'm going to the ER. Otherwise, we were just gonna find another way out there and head out there. When it comes down to being challenging, I'm thinking like, because we kind of ran a little over our time that very first day of shooting. It was due to one of the main actresses that had a pretty big role in them scenes that we had to wait on. So but it was good though, and it was good because of the fact that on that day I think we had about 15, 16 extras, and the majority of them didn't even know each other. I gave them time to actually, communicate with each other, get comfortable with each other, and just do things before the camera start rolling. And it actually it went very, very well, because I think I even told you or talked to you about potentially how we're going to like have to rewrite this shit on the fly, with leaving her character out, because she has so much, that as far as dialogue that was done on them scenes that we were shooting that day, But when she came through like a champ, even when she came in, I'm like, you all right? Like, we don't even gotta put you on camera for a minute. You can like go lay down or something. And she's like, nah, I'm good. I'm ready to get going, and got going. And every time I see that scene and I'm looking at her, I'm like, yo ass got into a car accident 3 hours before you started filming. And you're still showing, your mind is already built into that character to portray that character, you know, for that time. You're not showing any sign of being in pain or nothing like that. Not showing any signs of being depressed or anything that would happen if you just got into a car accident. That was more phenomenal than challenging. The challenge would have been if she couldn't have made it.
Where can people find you on social media?
Mainly on Facebook. You can find me on Facebook at James Cels Bragg, Cels Bragg, Bragg, or you can go to my YouTube channel at Cels Vision. That's Celsvision. You can find me on them two platforms. If you want to get at me, I'm older, so I really don't do like the Instagram. Well, I know older people do it. I just don't do it. I don't know why. I just don't. I think I have an Instagram page because my fiance set me up one like 3 years ago, and I think I only been on that bitch like 3 times. So yeah, it just shows how I am connected with social media with all the newer shit. But you can find me on, like I said, on Facebook. I'm on there regularly, and YouTube. Like I said, you can see some work that I've done uh, on that site as well.
All links for your social media will be in the description below. You can check out his YouTube, his Facebook, possibly his Instagram if he has one. I think you do have one. Now that I think about it, I think you don't use it, but I think you do have one.
Yeah, I know I don't use it, but I do have one.
And also, I will throw in a link in the description where you can get your own copy of Talk Nerdy. and you
Yes.
can actually have yours, or I'll throw the link for the digital copy. You can watch it straight on YouTube as well. So if you have a smart TV, you can watch it straight on there.
And
But
I will say again earlier, if you're in the special features, you want to get the DVD copy
yes,
because there's a lot of special features on there.
yes, gag reel. It's absolutely hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
James, thank you so much for taking time out of your day for this. I appreciate it.
And no problem, man. I appreciate you inviting me onto it, man. It's good stuff. I like it a lot. Appreciate you guys having me.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to this very first episode of Chit Chats. Remember, subscribe to the channel, hit that bell for notifications, leave a comment below, and obviously you're going to like this episode. So just leave a thumbs up, and I'll see you later.